Also, not to go for realism here, but would someone robbing a liquor store really like shoot a guy point blank who like just walks toward them? Why wouldn't he just run away? I felt like they wouldn't have actually escalated it.
I mean,
that
if he was
far.
in a costume and he was super buff, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so.
You have to assume that he's some sort of hero, right? Nobody looks like that and wears a suit that dumb. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 555 with a review of Shazam! And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest film releases coming to a theater near you. This week, as your eardrums might now know, we are reviewing the film Shazam. So it is the latest film in the DC universe. That film, at least in the trailer, there's a big conversation about whether the guys in the film would prefer flight or invisibility if they could choose between those two powers. So in Classic Forum, we will have that discussion right now. Stephen Miller, if you could have flight or invisibility, which would you choose?
First, I want to point out we didn't introduce ourselves like we normally do in this episode.
That is true.
But it's okay. It flowed better anyway, and you eased my full name in here like you knew we didn't do it. So I respect it. It was a good hosting.
That's what happens when you try to go off script at the beginning.
Yep. So I've actually been thinking about this since watching Shazam yesterday. I know it's a cliched answer, but I think flight. I just feel like there's so many times in my life that flight would make it easier. I guess the question they don't ask is like, how much energy does flight expend on you? Does it expend energy the way running would expend energy? You just like can fly, or do you get to kind of like coast and not have to do anything?
But I mean, you can ask the same question: is there a level of like psychic energy that is expended when you become invisible? Right? Like, do you have to literally be like, is it like holding in a fart as long as you want to be invisible? Right? Like, what are the?
I would let it rip the moment I become invisible, personally. But no, the reason is invisibility has its own benefits no matter what.
Yeah.
Flight in my daily life, the main benefit would be being able to quickly move around places. And if like you were expending a ton of energy to do that, a lot of the benefit would go down because it would be like limited, or it wouldn't be as convenient as it would have felt before. So
True.
I don't know, but I'm gonna assume the hydrodynamics still work, which means flying like takes less than moving on the ground, and I'm gonna say flight. It'd be pretty sweet, like to fly home.
You would stay on the ground. You would just be an inch off the ground, so that you don't have to expend energy to walk.
Yeah, sure. Like I walked far on Saturday, and I had to figure out how to get home from another part of town, and I was like, oh, I can lift, but it's gonna be like a 30-minute drive. Do I want to do that? And I could like walk, but I'm so tired already. If I could have just like flown home, that would have been great.
Yeah. Though I feel like you can only do the flying at night because you don't want people to see you, right? Like at night you can just lift off anytime you're on the street by yourself and then land somewhere that you can. Like I could fly onto my balcony, right? And chances are maybe nobody would see it happening.
That's true.
So for me, I think, I'm Christopher Schnese and I break all questions like this. For me, it would depend on how far outside of myself my powers extend. Like if I can grab somebody's hand and they both either get flight with me for the duration of us holding hands, or they gain invisibility, then like, does it extend to objects I touch? Like, can I walk into an Apple store and just grab a laptop and then the laptop's invisible? Right? Like these are important questions.
Your dream superpower gets you a laptop. I guess mine is public transit. So.
I'm just giving an example of things, right? More recording equipment for the podcast.
Oh yeah.
I just think that like it's
we could record during work hours and no one would know.
Maybe like, what are they just playing their podcast in the office on speakers that we didn't know were in the walls? But yeah, I think that it really comes down to what you can do with it. I would have to say probably for now, without knowing the bounds of the power and what it extends to, I would also say flight, just because getting around would be the convenient thing. And I think that being able to move about the city without needing my car or needing to ride public transit would be a great power to have.
Yeah. No, it'd be great. As long as you haven't been drinking the night before and then like there's an emergency crash landing and nobody knows if they should like applaud you or criticize you.
I was going to make that joke early about the power of flight also gives you the ability to do a barrel roll in a plane while on alcohol and cocaine. But yeah, so what do you say, Stephen? We get ready to do this review of Shazam.
Can't wait.
We're going to take a listen to the trailer for Shazam and then come back and give you a review.
Billy Batson, I choose you as champion. Say my name so my powers will become yours. Shazam.
Wait, for real?
Say it, okay? Say my name.
That's crazy, right?
What are your superpowers?
Superpowers, dude? I don't even know how to pee in this thing.
This is proof of authenticity. Super strength. Electricity manipulation. Hyperspeed.
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
His name is Captain Sparkle Fingers.
No, it's not. That's not my name.
Chosen one.
Oh, you're like a bad guy, right?
You literally did the opposite of what a superhero is supposed to do. You're him. You're the hero.
You're welcome for not getting robbed.
I'm Batman.
Get him back in!
How old are you?
Basically 15.
Dude, did you see that?
Yeah, you electrocuted a bus and almost killed these people.
And then I caught it!
You leave tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, so that was the trailer for Shazam. It is a superhero film in which a kid gets sent to a wizard dimension or place where a wizard tells him a story about how people were protecting the world from the seven sins and bestows upon him his own powers that he has in order to help him go off and protect the world in the way that the wizard can't, because the wizard's dying because he's old and doesn't have enough power, even though he has enough power to give the kid his powers.
Sure.
But Stephen Miller, what did you think of Shazam?
I liked it. So I will say I went in with like relatively low expectations. I knew that it had pre-screened to roughly like 100,000 people a few weeks ago. So a ton of buzz had come in from it already.
Yeah.
But like I didn't want it to taint me. In general, I wasn't that excited about it. Like I don't know anything about the Shazam property. It looked kind of hokey to me. And so I didn't want to go in thinking like, is this a masterful, amazing superhero movie? I just wanted to be like, is this a fun time that's like either wholesome or silly or something, right? Like that's all I wanted. So I saw it in IMAX and I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was amazing. Like I thought it was a pretty fun time that kind of taps into the subtext of a lot of superhero movies, which is what would it feel like for regular people to become superheroes? Like in the last 10 years especially, I feel like a lot of superhero movies are about like the love of superheroes and the love of comics and like the wish fulfillment that they give. And this movie is very directly about that because it's about a world where Superman and Batman exist as far as I can tell. And
yeah. I mean, there are references to their existence. The city doesn't behave when Shazam appears as though they're used to Superman flying around. Mm-hmm. But then again, it's not Metropolis and it's not
and they
Gotham,
also
so
they do behave with like they're a little bit more like credulous than they would be, I think, in a world without superheroes.
Yeah.
Like I feel like people pretty quickly are like, oh yeah, it's a superhero, we got one. But anyway, so it kind of lives in this world where like people look up to superheroes, they nerd out about them the way they nerd out about anything else, and all of a sudden a kid who doesn't have a family gets this power and he gets the like joy of having it. And I thought the best thing about this movie is the comedy. I think it is like very broadly funny most of the time in a way that doesn't really wear out its welcome as far as I could tell. I feel like it does a good job keeping it nice and upbeat. I think it does a good job with the heart moments without hammering them too hard.
Yeah.
Like everything about the foster family that this kid goes to live with, I feel like is 10 times sweeter than it looked in the trailer. Like especially the parents in the foster family. I feel like they're wonderful. Like I want them in other movies. They're just very heartwarming and nice in a way that isn't undercut by a joke or anything. It's just it is what it is. Let's let you sit with that. And I think the movie goes to some places about like parenthood and especially the main kid's past in a way that I thought like I haven't seen other movies of this genre tackle that kind of thing before. So it got real in a way that I wasn't expecting. I also praises. I like Mark Strong as the villain. I think he's like really good. I like Zachary Levi as Shazam. I really like Asher Angel as Billy Batson, kind of the star. I don't think Zachary Levi does a good impression of Asher Angel at all. I think the goal of his character is to be that kid turned into a superhero and is now acting like a kid in an adult body. And I feel like he is acting like a kid, but not that kid. He's saying things and acting goofy in a way that kid would not act goofy. It's a minor criticism, but I just felt like he could have been anyone in that moment. Like I didn't feel like he was doing the work of actually trying to inhabit that kid and that kid's personality and everything.
That is true, but he's also, it's not like he's supposed to be, it's not like he's doing like a sorry to bother you thing where it's supposed to be the kid's voice coming out of his body, right? Mm-hmm. That he's just a superhero who has the mind of a 15-year-old, right? He's becoming sort of a different person in that moment. And I think for me, it really, really works. But I also like Zachary Levi, right? Yeah. Like I loved the shtick he was doing. Like I think this film succeeds based on his performance in this film.
I mean, I think he's really, really, really funny in it. I just feel like they could have done little things where he would have tics that the kid had or his joke. Because his sense of humor is a lot more like broad and silly and kind of like, I don't know. He kind of acts like a drunk guy, like a little kid who doesn't know what he's doing, where the actual kid, Billy Batson, is like really savvy and clever and stuff. And it's a minor nitpick. I get it's probably worth it for the broad comedy anyway. I just felt like they could have done something there.
Here's the real question is whose job was it to be the other person? Is it technically, does Shazam have to act like the kid or should the kid be trying to act like Shazam?
I think Shazam has to act like the kid. I think seniority rules apply here. But anyway, I like
reverse seniority rules.
Sure, I feel like the person with more should be entrusted with more responsibility the older he is.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Anyway,
with great age comes great responsibility.
It had a very like Marvel vibe. I felt like it had a lot of banter, a lot of silliness, but it was also a lot more like wacky and like exuberantly silly than that. I think it's best exemplified by the credits scene at the end, which I think is one of the best parts of the movie, actually. There's like an animated bit that it's closing out that is really diving into like the joy of being obsessed with superheroes and the thrill. It's kind of like the Lego movie, right? This feels like a live action version of the Lego movie. So I think it's really fun. I didn't think it was like amazing. Like it didn't blow my mind necessarily the way that I felt like some early reviews suggested it would, but I thought it was totally good and I'm totally happy to watch more of this movie.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a film that is totally fine playing silly in the superhero universe and making references to the existence of everything else, but still being willing to do its own thing, which is weird that it is set in the same universe as Superman and Wonder Woman and all these other characters, because we might have to have a little spoiler segment.
Sure.
But let's just say the DCEU or DCU now has a Tony Stark problem, which we'll get to later on. But yeah, no, I think I had a great time with it. And the funny thing too is the fantasy elements of it are very, very silly, right? Mm-hmm. Just this idea of people being sort of abducted to be tested with this moral challenge, whether or not they can take on the Shazam powers. Mm-hmm. Like that is goofy as hell. But for some reason, I was totally on board with it 100%. Like, I like the weird Seven Sins like statues.
I didn't even get to talk about them yet. Yeah, they're great.
Go ahead.
They're great.
Yeah.
No, I'm just echoing. You can give the praise, but I think that's an awesome like bad guy idea. I think it's super fun in a very, very, very silly way.
Yeah, like the conceit of them, the design of them is kind of fun. I even like the joke because they're all basically demons, and there's even a joke that Lust doesn't particularly look like a lusty character. Like, honestly, gun to my head, I just assume the one with the long tongue is Lust, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, like just the idea of what they represent and how they interplay with the villain character, what taking the eye symbolizes and physically manifests itself as. The motivation of the villain is really, really compelling. Like we've talked about in a lot of the films, most villains are just like, I'm here to destroy bad guys. But this is a villain who just wanted power, which, I mean, obviously all villains just want power, but he has a very specific arc that he's going on, and he has this very, very specific reason for appearing to challenge Shazam in a way that makes sense. It's not just that, like, this crazy, powerful villain happened to be in the same city that Shazam was in. It's like he's specifically on the hunt for Shazam for a specific reason.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to be the very best that no one ever was.
Yeah.
That's why he catches deadly sins in his ball.
But I really enjoyed too. I think the casting in this film is 95% of the film. Some of the casting we can't talk about right now. But there are individual characters that just showing up. I was like, this is the fucking greatest
There is
movie.
a lot of joy in this movie about the casting that you don't know about yet.
Yeah. Which is don't even use IMDb until you've already watched this film, because there are just spoilers in the cast list. But yeah, I think it's a great film. It has a lot of heart, as you said. And I really dug the big moments of this film, right? Like, just that feeling of like child in adult body, the way they play with that. This is a film that is a genuine joy to watch in a way that the other DC films have not been up until this moment. I really like. I had so much fun with this. I mean, I still love Man of Steel. I think it's a great film. It's serious, it's deadly serious, right? But I love it for being that drama, that story it wanted to tell. This is like, oh yeah, remember, superhero movies are fun.
Yeah.
And this isn't just like Ant-Man's fun, right? But it's mostly fun because like Michael Pena and like a little bit Paul Rudd, right? But I think in general those films are kind of fun because there's joking in them, but they're not genuinely fun. Like this, we saw Dumbo like a week or two ago, whatever it ended up being, and part of the theme in that film that doesn't really get realized is that, like, you just made me feel like a kid again, right? Like, the seeing Dumbo fly brings me back to being a child and seeing the circus for the first time. And I think that this film sort of brings me back to, like, what it was like to watch early superhero films, like, where you're like, yeah, superheroes are the greatest, right? This is all about the wish fulfillment of being able to be a child who looks at superhero characters and then the ability to suddenly have that ability, not in like a Spider-Man way where you got bit, but just like now you have this ability and you don't know what to do with it. And I thought it was really fun. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think the family aspect works really well. Like I'm not someone who often likes cute kids in movies. Like I can have issues depending on who they are. But there's a younger sister character that I really liked in this movie. There are like the way everyone works together, I think, is really, really, really sweet.
Yeah.
I also think it does just feel like a more old school movie. Like part of the zaniness. I mean, this movie opens in the 70s and it cuts to the cave that we've seen in the trailer already. And everything in the first like 10 minutes of this movie could have been made in like the 90s or something. It feels like very, very, very silly and low rent and kind
it's
of
very hokey.
And in a way that I dug. Like it was fun, and it is playing with you too, because it is being extremely goofy, and yet kind of like the beginning of Guardians, where there's like tragedy occurs, but the tone of the movie is going to be very playful. So even the tragedy is kind of like in this silly aura. I don't know how to explain it, but this movie does the same thing, where there are things that happen in the beginning of the movie that could have been played as like, oh shit moments, but the movie is just being so like tongue in cheek with you that you kind of just roll with it. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to say about this movie. I just liked it.
I'm sure we can have more conversation in spoilers.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
I mean, this is going to be like, if you don't count the spoiler section, this is like the fastest episode we've ever done.
Yep.
But would you like to just get it to verdicts for now?
Yeah, why not?
Cool. Stephen Miller, if you're going to give this a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for until pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm still sticking to recommend with a caveat for this one, only because I had a lot of fun with it. It didn't make a huge mental footprint. Like, I'm already running out of things to want to say about it. And, like, I don't know. It was definitely playful and fun and heartwarming in a way, but it didn't rise to that level of, oh my God, I need to see this again. I felt happy with it. I'm excited for the sequel, but I don't know. I just thought it was good. I didn't feel like it was like mind blowing or anything.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a recommend with a caveat as well. I think that I had amazing time with this. I can 100% see somebody seeing this and just not liking it.
Mm-hmm.
The girl that was in the seat next to me in the theater just left towards the end of the film.
What?
And I like, she gets up to leave and I was like, okay, when you gotta go, you gotta go. And then she just never came back. I was like, I wonder what pushed you over the edge there, because it's like just heating up. Like, why would
Did she have a compass with her?
Yeah, she found her way home. But yeah, I can totally buy it if you don't jive with this. Maybe the Seven Sins are a little too much for you. Maybe the original Shazam, it is not even old age makeup, is too much for you.
Yeah, the Seven Sins are great. They remind me of like Ghostbusters or something.
Yeah, no, they're very cool. Also, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that is going to do it for the main part of the review. If you've already seen Shazam, you can stick with us, and in a moment we'll go into spoilers. For everyone else, you should go out and see Shazam, because we recommend it with a caveat. But yeah, so we're going to close this out and then come back with spoilers. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can go to twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/SpoilerWarning, Facebook.com/TheSpoilerWarning, or Instagram.com/TheSpoilerWarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Shazam, so hopefully you are enjoying that. We're going to let you listen to that for a few seconds, then when we come back, it'll be full-blown spoilers. So prepare yourself, because you don't want to be spoiled. All right, so we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after show. It's the part where we're going to go into full-blown spoilers for Shazam. So if you haven't seen the film, beware. Spoilers, Shazam coming at you right now. Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit about the Seven Deadly Sins. I really enjoyed the conceit of that. And it felt like it wasn't just like a weird, because when it started, I was kind of like, that's kind of weird, silly idea. Seven Sins, like, what does that have to do with anything? And then the way they were used was very, very interesting. And I really love the idea of like this villain has been so like beat down by everyone. Like his parents told him he was like worth nothing. His brother told him he was worth nothing. And he just has grown up needing the power to survive. And just the idea of like keeping envy as the one that never leaves his body, just as a representation of like what he, like his being envious of the power of the rest of the world. Like that was just one of those things where like, that doesn't need to be in a kid's movie,
right?
But it actually works in a way that's like, yeah, I kind of like this. Like it felt, I don't know. I personally really, really loved it.
So that's my question, because I almost said this at the beginning and I stopped myself. Is this a kid's movie? Like, who is this targeted for?
So I think it's a combination of it's a combination of kid wish fulfillment of like being able to have powers, but I think it's also like a critique of adults, right? Like how kids view adults and how they view ramifications of like choices they make as they grow up, right? Like I think you're supposed to see these versions of adulthood and like sort of like, I don't know, I think there's some messages there for children to look at and be like, oh, yeah, I don't really want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I feel like there's some sense of that, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I just couldn't tell because it stars kids and it has a playfulness that makes me feel like throwback, childlike. But I don't know. I mean, it is an entry into. I don't know. Is this the DCEU officially or no?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's entry into the DCEU. So it
I mean,
it feels
like
we wouldn't call a Marvel movie a kids movie, right?
no.
So double standard.
I mean, they are PG-13, right? So they're technically young adult movies. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, because part of the joy I had with this movie was imagining it being like House with a Clock in its Balls or something, like a movie that's like, it's a kid's movie and it's doing other fun stuff on the side. And I don't know if I hold it to the, like, it is a movie for me standards, if the writing still holds up or not.
But that's interesting. The more you think about, like, you were talking about the performance of Zachary and, like, him being not quite being the kid.
Yeah.
But being his own shtick that he does. And it almost feels like this is an adult playing kids movie, right? Where it's like all of the adults want to be cheesy and be children. It's the reverse of what the kid is doing.
Yeah.
Billy Batson.
It's massage.
Nice. The kid Billy Batson is becoming an adult, but it's really about adults playing like children. Especially when we get to the end, which we'll talk about in a second.
See, like, he thinks he's teaching the kids, but the kids are teaching him the whole time.
My brain just got Shazammed. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, I both and.
And anyway, I agree with your, like, assessment of the 7 deadly sins. I thought that scene where Shazam is deducing, like, the 7 deadly sins that are already running out there, the one that must still be in there, and then he tries to coax them out. Like, that's fun. That's clever. I like it.
So there was one funny moment, which I'm so glad that they addressed, that, like, as the sins disappear from the eye, he loses some of the power that's been given to him by the sins, because they're like they're dropping little bits of exposition all around. So, like, when we first meet people, Mark Strong as the villain character makes some sort of statement where he's like, he says something like, the weapons of man can't hurt us. It's only the powers of whatever they refer to them.
Only magic can hurt other magic.
Yeah, only magic can hurt other magic. And like, when they throw the batarang and it sticks into the back of his head, I was like, did you just fucking say Batman's a wizard?
Oh my god. You were so far ahead of this movie.
But then I was like, oh, I get it, because the things had left his body. I was like, all right,
Batman
fine.
did train with, like, a shaman or something.
Yeah, no, I was 100% like, oh shit.
That's funny. I had a weird thing at the beginning of this movie. The one thing we know about the little kid who would become Mark Strong is he has these, like, very pronounced circular glasses, like perfectly round glasses.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, he has the Harry Potter glasses. And so then in the future, when there's, like, the female scientist who is, like, interviewing people about their dreams, and the first way I knew, like, she had to be related to him, I thought, was she has those same circular glasses. And at first, I swear to God, I was thinking, like, are they making, like, a trans villain in this movie? Because that's going to be really surprising. But then it showed him with the glasses. So and anyway, that kind of broke my theory. But still, the bad guys have the round glasses. Okay, that's fine. That's what's going on in this movie. Then the little girl, the little sister, also has perfectly round glasses. And I was thinking, like, are they going to make her get possessed by one of the 7 deadly sins? Like, I was finding motifs that just don't exist in this movie.
So you were doing the same thing as me.
Yeah.
I was just keeping it in the superhero realm.
Yeah. I was just doing, I don't even know what I was doing.
Yeah. So, so going back to Mark Strong's character, though, like, there's lots of characters that are villains that, like, grow up and then become evil and go over the time. But I like the idea of like, him amassing. Well, it's actually kind of funny because the OA came out last week, and I just watched that. Steve and I had, like, a nice little spoilery conversation about that before we recorded. But in part 2 of the OA, one of the things they're addressing is people are studying people who have had a shared hallucination, right? Like a shared delusion amongst very many people, and they're trying to use this as a way to understand something. And this film is like the same sort of thing, right? Mark Strong's character has been funding this research to find people who claim they've had this weird abduction experience, and he's not trying to study it academically. He's specifically trying to study it because he's desperate to find his way back to the realm that they were at.
To learn the dance.
Yeah, to learn the motions so that he can warp to the wizard dimension. But so it was just, I really enjoyed, maybe it just cohesively worked out that way. But like, I like that idea of somebody just devoting their life to this one subject matter as like this way to reverse engineer what happened to them as a child. So there's just like a lot of really interesting things, like a backstory that is way deeper than it needed to be for this. Like this film could have started with, here's your new foster family. Here's the fight you were in. Now you're on the bus, and we're literally picking you as champion. But instead of that, like, it reverses it. It gives us more time to learn what the villain's actually doing. And Billy Batson is just the last hope, right? He's just the guy who was closest at the time, and he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I can't give you the test anymore anyways because the eye's already been taken. Here are my powers. And I thought that was like a fun way to kind of flip on its head that Billy Batson isn't just this like stand-up character who is pure of heart, right? He's just the last guy that did something noble in one moment, and he gets the powers.
Yeah. I thought that was a fun backstory. I feel like there have been other superhero movies I've seen before where they are just random people, like they don't have a good reason that they got the thing.
Well, most are like that, but the true backstory is that they're looking for somebody specific, and he just throws that out because like there's no time left.
Yeah. So okay, the big reveal that we haven't talked about yet is that obviously he is not alone. The big thing that he realizes is that he was meant to crown other people as are they Shazam also? Because Shazam isn't really the name, right? But Shazam is the name of the wizard. Well,
so I think you still need to say Shazam to get the powers.
Yeah.
So they're all Shazam.
Okay. Yeah.
Technically, he's Princess Sparklefingers or whatever.
Yeah. So there are other Shazams, and he realizes that everyone in his new family can become superheroes just like him.
Thank God that foster family had exactly 7 children or whatever.
Was that canon? Like, was that a thing in comic books? And B, if it was, did you know about it already?
My answer to both those questions is I don't know.
Okay.
So I definitely didn't know if it was. There's just the sense that they've established, which is there were originally a council of wizards that needed to fight that would keep 7 wizards to keep at bay the 7 sins.
And in the darkness bind them.
Yeah. So like it made sense, and I didn't foresee it happening. But I also don't know whether that was like a thing they established. I feel like it has to be a thing, just because the thing that we'll get to in a moment, which is what are you gonna do when you have 7 Shazams like in your universe?
Yeah, I knew because you made a comment on Friday at the lunch table about like Shazam maybe bricking the DC universe or something. And when I was watching Shazam, I was thinking like, what does Chris have a problem with? And then the moment they all showed up, I was like, oh, it's the Iron Man suits again.
Yeah. So basically, at the end of Iron Man 2, I was like, if you just have like Iron Man's arguably one of the best Avengers, right? I mean, maybe he doesn't have special hammers, and he doesn't have like photon blasts now that we have Captain Marvel, but essentially he's like gets to be a regular dude when he wants to, and then his suit comes out of nowhere, and then he just has cool suits. Once he starts making like 50 other suits that just work on their own and can work in tandem, then it's like, well, why do you need Avengers when you have like 50 Iron Mans? And I feel like 7 Shazams is probably equal to 50 Iron Mans. So I am curious.
When they grow up, at least. I think like the little girl is going to take some time to be a good Shazam.
Yeah, but I mean, first off, they're in a city that either has no crime yet or just doesn't have a superhero of its own. So I just, it seems weird, like specifically because they bring Superman in at the end of the film in that scene in the cafeteria. It's not just Superman exists in this world. It's that Shazam and Superman now know each other. So clearly they're in cahoots. So like, why would?
Well, that's why I was wondering if this was really in the DCEU, because I didn't feel like that Superman was at all needed to be the like Superman from Justice League or whatever.
Well, I mean, it's
like they didn't even show his face, right? Like that's how much
because
it
was
kind of
probably
a throwaway joke.
That's because they weren't going to pay Henry Cavill to come over and stand in the suit for literally less than a second of a shot.
And they should have.
He should have just pumped both his arms. He knew it was him. But no, I think that that has to mean that it is him, right? And especially because like the young kid, the kid that's the one that's teaching him all about superheroes references having purchased a bullet shard that had bounced off of Superman. So it's like it's definitely supposed to be the Superman universe that we're in. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Which is another thing that's super weird is because everybody got pissed at Man of Steel because they were punching each other through buildings, and Mark Strong definitely punches Shazam.
Oh yeah.
What does he have a Bat villain name in this film? I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, if they do, I feel like he doesn't really use it at all in the movie. But he does get rough. Like the scene where he first shows his powers walking into the conference room where his dad is working, and he just like throws his brother out the window.
That was gnarly.
Yeah,
like,
that was a lot.
Like I could imagine like throwing up against the wall and choking somebody out or something like that. But like literally just like, and you're gone.
Honestly, I still had like a little bit of shell shock from Hotel Mumbai where I was like, I don't know if I want to see this. But then it was so unrealistic, I got on board.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked the reveal. I think the possibilities of like a bunch of kids, especially that little girl being a superhero, are like fun for the universe. I still don't know how, if they ever do want to tie these together, how the hell they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But I like it for what it is. Like I can imagine a standalone sequel that would be good.
It's going to be like a series of movies where Superman's like, I got it, guys. Maybe when you're older.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It could be like a Spider-Man thing where we get to bide time that way.
Yeah. But I really like I really like when we get the adult versions of the kids, especially like Adam Brody.
Yeah.
Like Adam Brody showing up as the little dude. I'm just like, this is the best casting idea. I not only did I not see this coming, but I was like, well, you duh.
What if you had seen it coming? What if you're just like Adam Brody?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, I'd pick for big little guy, Adam Brody. That'd be my pick. I want Seth from the OC to show up and be the superhero version of the crippled boy. And then I got my dream.
Yeah. Congratulations. I liked the gag toward the end when Mark Strong was giving his like supervillain monologue and he was too far away for Shazam to hear him. It's one of those things that like Ant-Man would have done it too, and I would have been like, okay, Paul Rudd, come on.
Yeah.
You're trying too hard to be funny. But for some reason in this movie, like I was calibrated to that level of silly where I was like, all right, you go, movie.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, so the one last thing I want to say is, speaking of like Ant-Man and comparing the two, I loved the use of the Shazamming and de-Shazamming as sort of like the Ant-Man Big Small sort of thing, where like he could be trapped in a situation, Shazam himself out of it, and then re-Shazam into Shazam. And like, I just thought that was a really inventive, like it's dangerous. You're doing a huge risk when you do that because you're becoming mortal like for those split seconds. But it really is like the only way out of a bind. And it was just cool to see him use that to effect, especially when he zaps Envy. Yeah. Like by Shazamming.
Well, then I was thinking back, like, were there other times when he could have zapped the character and the lightning bolt just missed or something? Because I feel like he Shazams out of clutches in other parts.
Well, and this is specifically like demons that are apparating, disapparating, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe there's like an extra special thing that's happening. But yeah, I thought it was very, very because Mark Strong's like holding both of his arms and he like Shazams. He's like, what? So
yeah, I still like that. I thought that was fun too. I mentioned pre-spoiler that I like where this goes with his origin story. It basically like just very lightly, like not for very long, has him go back and find his mother. Yeah, and she is living in her own kind of bad situation, and she admits like, hey, I was 17 when I had you. My dad kicked me out of the house.
Also,
your dad...
she did not look 17.
No, so
in that flashback.
She couldn't have been... I want to say she was 17 when she had him, not in the flashback.
No, I mean in the flashback, because she says, I ditched you because I was just 17.
I felt like there were just missing words in her sentence, and she meant like I was 17 when I had you.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't ready to be a mother. And now
Maybe.
when you were 5 or however old he is in that
Either way, she
flashback-
wasn't low 20s
Yeah. No,
in that
sure.
flashback either.
Yeah. And anyway, all that aside, I thought having it be like your mom wasn't ready to raise you and she isn't a villain or like a hero who's suddenly all tearful about his return. She's just like in between. I thought that was interesting. Like I liked that for his character, especially.
Yeah, I guess I'm sort of tired of the like single mom with abusive step-husband guy that lives in her apartment and yells at her when she tries to talk to somebody outside of the door. I'm a little tired of that trope. I was just thankful she wasn't like a drug addict when she opened the door or something like that, right? So I was less stoked on those scenes, but it did get me when he's like, I found my way home, and he like hands her, and he's like, maybe you'll need this more than me.
No, when he
"Oh,
gave it to her
God."
because she would need it more than him, I felt like that was a big character moment for him. I liked it. That got me pretty good.
Yeah, that was good. I just when he was going in and I could hear when I could hear people like domestic abuse happening in the doors as he came up the stairs, I was like, oh man, they're gonna do it, aren't they? Like it wasn't as bad as I was imagining it was going to be, but I was just glad that she wasn't like strung out or something when she opened the door. So
yeah, I do feel like going back like to the earlier observation about the way this movie had kind of violence with hokiness altogether. I feel like there are moments in this movie that like in the real world, they're pretty dangerous. Like all the stuff of him learning what his powers are and the way him and Freddy like are figuring that out.
yeah,
And
he
he's
tries
like,
to light him on fire.
yeah, tries to light him on fire, tries to have guys shoot him in the face. He's like zapping people and not knowing what he's doing. He's wreaking havoc. You know, you mentioned the Man of Steel type moments in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that where I feel like they could do serious harm. And even when he is just a kid, when he's just Billy, when he's beating up those bullies and he whacks them in the face with the metal crutch, like,
But they
that
also
would fuck a kid up.
They also hit him with their car.
Yeah, I know.
Which I like. I've seen bullies be bully, but like nobody hits a kid with a crutch with their car.
They do.
Like that was gnarly. But yeah, I still get what you're saying. Yeah, like the thing I couldn't help but think about in that moment in the shopping mart thing is like, even if there wasn't a chance he was not going to be immune to bullets, like the kid's standing right there, like a bullet could ricochet off.
Yeah.
Like I was like, why? Maybe you should shoot him in the face. Like I was like, why are you asking them to shoot him?
Also, not to go for realism here, but would someone robbing a liquor store really like shoot a guy point blank who like just walks toward them? Why wouldn't he just run away? I felt like they wouldn't have actually escalated.
I mean, if he was in a costume and he was super buff, maybe.
yeah, I guess so.
You have to assume that he's some sort of hero, right? Nobody looks like that and wears a suit that dumb.
That's true. Now, so the setting of this movie is Philadelphia. Other movies,
It's a cream cheese.
Other movies have famously been set in Philadelphia involving people who suddenly find that they have superpowers. Do you think this should unify with the Unbreakable universe?
No, it shouldn't. I think that the Unbreakable films are about natural evolution of human beings, not wizards who bestow powers upon people.
Okay, final thought. I thought the lead character who plays Billy Batson looked like a male Maisie Williams. I feel like he has like the eyes and the hair and the look.
I'm seeing a picture of him like making a face like when he's proud of something he did, and I can kind of see it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
We're only like a week away from this. Maybe she's gonna appear as Billy Batson.
We'll see.
In the show.
Well, I mean, she's appeared as many people.
Yeah, I guess that about does it.
She's kind of the Shazam of the Game of Thrones universe.
Except for she yells it after she takes off her face. Shazam! But yeah, we're about to take off. This week starts the SF Film Festival, so there will be a strange release schedule coming soon, and there'll probably be a lot of episodes coming at you. So hopefully you enjoy those. But yep, hope you all enjoyed Shazam. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of ours, and hope we enjoy the SF Film Festival.
Okay, now to make our movies not be in vain, 1-sentence review each of Pet Sematary and Unicorn Store. I'll start. Unicorn Store. Gotta make this sentence count. Kind of like Kimmy Schmidt meets Garden State, and worse than both of them. Way, way, way too cutesy. Did not like it.
That was a gnarly run-on sentence.
Yeah.
For me, I will say Pet Sematary adds weird haunty-esque things throughout the story before anybody gets buried in the pet cemetery, and that is dumb.
Sweet.
I think that was a full sentence.
Oh, my second sentence is prequel to Room. But if you had watched it, then we could have gone into that.
That means that movie ends in a really disturbing way.
The penultimate scene involves her going into a room under unknown circumstances, and we are not supposed to know if she's going to make it out.
Gotcha. Spoilers.
Spoilers. Kind of. Very vaguely spoilers.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Chosen from among all others by the immortal elders Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, Mercury, Billy Batson and his mentor travel the highways and byways of the land on a never-ending mission to right wrongs, to develop understanding, and to seek justice for all. In time of dire need, young Billy has been granted the power by the immortals to summon awesome forces at the utterance of a single word. Shazam! Which transforms him in a flash into the mightiest of mortal beings, Captain Marvel.